I'd like to thank you all for coming this afternoon. Welcome to the National Pavilion of Antigua and Barbuda, where we're going to be talking about environmental justice as a civil right. Our actual pavilion is located at the Don Orione Artigianelli, which is near the Peggy Guggenheim Museum and the Academia Museums. So we hope that you will come and visit our pavilion, which is a place where we hope that you'll just come and rest and relax. I'm shortly going to be introducing His Excellency Sir Rodney Williams, the Governor General of Antigua and Barbuda. But before that, I would just like to shortly thank the many people who helped us with the miracle of our National Pavilion, most of which the people who worked with us worked on a pro bono basis. So you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, my minister, Minister Chet Green, my former minister, I should say, of Culture. He's now the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And also I'd like to thank Minister Daryl Matthew, currently the Minister of Sports, Cultural, National Festivals, and the Arts. And of course, Lady Williams, who is in the center, the wife of the Governor General, who is the president of the Halo Foundation and the founder of the Halo Foundation, who is standing with our host at Don Orione Artigianelli. I'd also like to pay tribute to our featured artist, who's on my right, Mohammed Walbrook of Barbuda, who is a photographer, a graduate of the School of Visual Arts in New York, and also a Red Cross worker on the island of Barbuda, which shortly you'll understand the importance of that. So this is our the entrance to our National Pavilion at Don Orione. And in respect of the theme of free space, this actually is a free space and it's accessible to all. And again, we hope that everyone will come and just sit down and relax and enjoy the tranquility of the space. We have, this is our exhibition gallery, which we were lucky enough to organize with Don Orione Artigianelli. And we hope that everyone will understand this as a kind of classroom. It's an inclusive space, and we're very happy to have Jane DeMosto from We Are Here Venice with us, and we hope that she will, and others will consider this their classroom and their place for meetings, including the people of Ca' Foscarini here in Venice. Again, you can see this is a meeting we held yesterday morning with the curator and program director of the U.S. National Pavilion. And so it really is a dynamic space where we have meetings. In the top right-hand corner is a picture of part of the space where you see a TV monitor where we're having online sessions with students from islands. And we're working with the islands of Antigua and Barbuda and Manhattan and Venice. And again, that is thanks to the Governor General, who has opened Government House as the place where Antiguans and Barbudans can come to speak. And Lady Williams of Halo Foundation, who organized everything. Molly Craft Johnson from the Tishman Environment and Design Center at the New School, who worked with the New York City Lab School for Collaborative Studies. And again, Cecilia Steffing-Longo and her colleague Veronica Harkins at the Ca' Foscarini, along with Jane DeMosto at We Are Here Venice. So when we talk about environmental justice as a civil right in a small developing nation like Antigua and Barbuda, we're talking about something that's pretty serious. And this is the result of the address that the Honorable Gaston A. Brown, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, made at the 72nd meeting of the United Nations last September. It was shortly after a Category 5+ hurricane, which you can see in the picture above, devastated the island of Barbuda.
We are the least of the polluters, but the largest of the casualties. The unfairness, injustice, and inequality are painfully obvious.
And he basically said that developing countries are the victim of the excesses of places like the United States of America and other countries that aren't respecting climate change or taking it seriously. So we have here images of the island of Barbuda, which was struck, and in our pavilion we're talking about the devastation which was documented by the photographer Mohammed Walbrook as he was working as a Red Cross worker, and the sustainable rebuilding, which will be addressed by the archaeologist Sophia Perdicaris and her colleague historian Mr. Calvin Gore of Barbuda. We're also going to talk, the second of the three things we'll talk about is the expansion of the Botanical Gardens in St. John's, Antigua, which are known as Victoria Park. And this property was created shortly after the abolition of slavery as a civil right. Many people were living in an urban situation and malaria was a problem. And so legislation was passed to create a healthy space that all could enjoy. And the third and final property that we're going to be discussing, these are pictures of Barbuda on the right, and His Excellency receiving Prince Harry, who's now known as the Duke of Sussex? Yes. On November 21st of 2016, where we were all lucky enough to have Prince Harry serve as the patron for the inauguration of the restoration of Government House. Government House is the seat of His Excellency and Lady Williams, who are representatives of Her Majesty the Queen. And this is a property that you'll be learning a little bit more about from Mrs. Jonas, who serves as Private Secretary to the Governor General, and John Darlington, who's the Executive Director of the World Monuments Fund. It is the first LEED registered property in Antigua and Barbuda, which is unusual for a building that's over 200 years old. And we've also had the honor of receiving status on the World Monuments Fund watch list for 2018. So I would like to present His Excellency Sir Rodney Williams, the Governor General of Antigua and Barbuda.
Thank you very much, Barbara. First of all, let me recognize the distinguished members on the platform and also you, the audience, and say a pleasant good afternoon to you. Let me apologize for the absence of Lady Williams, who due to circumstances beyond her control was unable to be with us. But I bring you very warm greetings from our twin island nation of Antigua and Barbuda here to Venice to share in this international event, which showcases the architectural concepts from across the world under the general theme of free space. We also must express our sincerest gratitude to President Paolo Barata and his team for extending that invitation to Antigua and Barbuda to participate in this first event, which is being recognized as the top of its class. We were here last year when we had the theme, the artist creating his own universe, when he gave us that opportunity to present ourselves under our economic envoy and our curator here on my right, Barbara Baker. And that went very well indeed, so we're very glad to have the opportunity to be back here again. This year at the Venice Biennale, really we have the architecture as being the mainstay of our National Pavilion for Antigua and Barbuda, where, as you were told by Barbara just now, we're featuring three main projects, and one is the Barbuda Rebuilding Project. Barbuda is an island, our sister island, that was ravaged by Hurricane Irma, and we had to move all the people over to Antigua, and it's now in that rebuilding phase, and so therefore this, I think, offers an opportunity for us to showcase what can be done in terms of rebuilding a country and making it stronger and more resilient. Secondly, we have the Government House restoration. This is where the governor and the Governor General really lived for some time, but now it's primarily used in an office. And that building also has been subject to the climate change conditions of hurricanes, earthquakes, and the like, and it has been difficult to bring it back to what it was because of funding again, and that was a major problem. And now we are in the process of restoring it with the help of my good friend on the left, John Darlington, who is a member of the World Monument Fund Watch. We have been able to make a presentation to them and it is now one of the buildings that they regard as a heritage building worthy of restoration, and we want to thank John for that as well. And the other one is the Botanical Gardens called Victoria Park. And this really was named after, we had, as you know, we had slavery. And this park was an area where the slaves could go and really relax, have some rest and recreation. And so we want to bring about a renaissance of the Botanical Gardens again. And so that also is a very useful aspect of what we're trying to do now. And it also helps us to rebuild our communities and to help to show Antigua for what it is, to speak to our history and to speak to what we're doing to make Antigua and Barbuda more resilient as it pertains to meeting the challenges of climate change. And our presentation, which is entitled Environmental Justice as a Civil Right, will showcase our nation's efforts to engage in projects where every person, irrespective of gender, ability, social or economic status, is called upon to contribute to developing spaces where there is a meaningful respect and regard for the environment, and where each person's right to health and wellness as they live in and work in and enjoy the spaces which will be ultimately transformed. These three projects will engage the input from a cross-section of the community to include people who are able, those who are differently abled, achievers, and those in need of a second opportunity to excel. The young, the old, as well as men and women, who are expected to help to provide developmental models for others to study and adapt to their circumstances. But the presentation, as it is, calls for the global world, the global community to act in an environmentally responsible manner as we work to present our heritage and our green spaces and communities. All of us have a responsibility to help to make this world a better place. And I'm sure that you're all here today because you realize that that is something that we ought to be a part of as well. I also want to say that the debate on whether each person has the civil right to live, work, and play in an environment that will enable them to lead healthy and happy lives, and that is safe, will, and also one that is responsible for ensuring that this right is protected, will continue. However, with the high level of susceptibility of small island developing states like Antigua and Barbuda to, as we say, the effects of climate change, we do not have a choice. We must act now to ensure our own survival and that of generations to come. As I've always said, we, the people of this generation, have a responsibility to protect and preserve the history and heritage of our time for present and future generations. Our National Pavilion at the Don Orion Artiaganelli could not have been possible without the vision of our cultural envoy, Dr. Barbara Piccolo on my right, and her husband, Philip Logan. The Antigua and Barbuda Venice Biennale 2017 Inc., which is responsible for leading our participation in the Venice Biennale on behalf of the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda, is supported by a number of sponsors, to include the non-profit organizations in Antigua and Barbuda. The Halo Foundation, Inc. is one, which places a strong focus on youth development, generously agreed to sponsor the participation of 3 volunteers from Antigua and Barbuda in this year's Biennale. There is no doubt that the opportunity to learn a new language and experience a new culture and gain valuable work experience will be truly educational and memorable for these 3 young persons selected to serve as our ambassadors. There are also 3 persons here from Barbuda. They are here, we have 2 of them, on the platform this afternoon, and we were very glad to have them. And we thank their sponsors as well for bringing them along, because we don't want to leave Barbuda behind. And that's very important for us. The other aspect, of course, in terms of participation and support, is the History and Heritage Foundation, Inc., the Heritage Trust of Antigua and Barbuda, the St. James's Club, all other bodies who have supported this work here. Special thanks must go to the Barbuda Research Complex, especially Professor Perky de Caris and her colleague Professor Becky Boger, who sponsored the participation of our featured artist Mohammed Walbrook of Barbuda and the two other participants. Local support was reinforced by international partners in the United States of America, such as Preservation Green LLC, the Tishman Environment and Design Center at the New School, the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, and the Tides Foundation. I could not and would not forget Vanessa Smith from Vanessa Smith Pictures in New York, who worked with the Zoom sessions, a snippet of which you will see in a few minutes, and even climbed into a cave in Barbuda, even climbed there in Barbuda to get her job done. In the United Kingdom, our High Commissioner and the World Monuments Fund, UK, must be thanked for the valuable support which they provided. Here in Italy, Antigua and Barbuda is pleased to have the support of Don Orion Artigianelli in the persons of Daniela Niero and Nicoletta Maretto, and the principals of I Am Here Venice. Marco Pianegonda and Luigi De Mausi, our Italian Deputy Commissioner and Deputy Curator, are to be commended also for their work on behalf of this project since our entrance in 2017. The number of individuals who gave of their time, effort, and other resources to help us chart our course to the successful implementation of this Biennale, they're just too numerous to mention. And we express our heartfelt thanks to all our sponsors and supporters. Our heartiest commendations go to the team leading the charge, as well as our local and international sponsors for fulfilling Antigua and Barbuda's mission in the Venice Biennale Architecture 2018. I want to thank you all for listening and to tell you I could not do it without this piece of paper, because I would not have known all those names. Thank you very much.
To talk a little bit about the rebuilding of Barbuda, and it's my honor to present Professor Sofia Perdicaris of the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, who will speak a bit about the storm and the work in sustaining Barbuda, and the historian of Barbuda, Mr. Calvin Gore. So.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you, the City of Venice, for hosting us and helping us bring Antigua and Barbuda to the global community and share some of the issues, concerns, and dreams and hopes for the future. In Barbuda, as you can see in the map that was created by my colleague, Dr. Becky Boger, Becky and I have been working in Barbuda for 12 years. I'm an archaeologist and environmental scientist. And what's really important is that we are trying to look at the history, the last 5,000 years that Barbuda has seen people on its land, how these people have lived, what did they eat, what was the environment like, and how did they survive both the environment and the people after major storms. In the Caribbean, storms and hurricanes are part of the story of the people. It's part of the story of the land and the sea. And archaeology helps us, and environmental science gives us a little bit more of that picture, these little puzzle pieces that help us see how did people live, what did their villages look like, their artifacts, in historical times, the structures. We look at architecture from negative impressions on the ground, or from ruins up on hills and down in the valley. In Barbuda, the story is long, 5,000 years. But what is important is that the resilience of the island and its people. It has actually rebuilt itself, and the environment has done a comeback. But it was unprecedented what happened with Hurricane Irma, because we are living change. We're experiencing change and the devastation. And right now, the future archaeology is being created with different tales to tell. Unlike the past, where the history books had selective histories and the history of Barbuda was not very well known, and archaeology is helping bring that history about. The eyes and artistry of Mohammed Walbrook is bringing those images to us, to the world today, but is also creating the history of the future. It is really important that we continue to support Barbuda as global citizens in its rebuilding process. But what is important to know is that that process of rebuilding requires vision, sensitivity, respect for cultural heritage, respect for the heritage and intangible cultural heritage of today, of what it means to be Barbudan, of what Barbuda is about, and bring about rebuilding that takes into account the voice of the people. But also the environment, be sensitive. Nature, as we have seen at the archaeological record, has always done a comeback, and it will, but we have to allow that to happen. And we have to design with nature in mind, not excluding nature, but embracing it, and building with those challenges in mind. So in that, the beauty of Barbuda is endless. You walk on archaeology, you walk on stories, you experience the nature, the caves, the city of Codrington. And Mr. Gore has been the eyes of the history on Barbuda. It is because of him that archaeology actually exists in Barbuda today. It is his eyes that located the first sites that brought me to the island. His eyes that look about when construction is happening that sometimes affects the well-being of archaeological monuments. And I would like to invite him to actually share some of his vision and some of about the island and some of his work, both in the past as part of the governing body of Barbuda, but also now into the future as an elder and as a historian and as a keeper of many stories from the island of Barbuda.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Well, I've seen a lot of storms in my time, but Hurricane Irma takes it all. And it's the first time for 500 years, based on data we're seeing where Barbudans have been evacuated. But as you know, Barbudans are resilient people, and we will come back. Thanks to what we're seeing, our building codes have been changed, but our archaeology is the one who will give us a sense of what happened in the past and put our way forward. I've seen Barbuda from hurricanes. I've seen it from where, especially Hurricane Irma, where one child died. And that is a record because we've seen it over and over and over, but no one died. We run to the caves. The caves were our rescue in those days. And even up until today, the caves are some of our rescue. Thank you for listening for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And I'd like to present Mohammed Walbrook, who will just say a few words about his work as a photographer.
Good afternoon. I took it upon myself after Hurricane Irma to document what would have happened to Barbuda after the hurricane, because I knew that after a storm of that magnitude, Barbuda will never ever be the same again. So immediately after the hurricane, I went around and I started taking pictures, taking as many pictures as possible, and actually stayed there after they evacuated everyone else for about a week and continued photographing, because I knew to myself that it would never be the same and someone had to document it. And I'd like to thank the city of Venice for allowing us to show Barbuda after the storm and to share what we would like to happen to Barbuda in the future at the Biennale. And also I'd like to thank His Excellency, the Governor General, for making this possible, the curator, Barbara Baker, and all the wonderful persons on the team who put this together, Luigi and all the other guys. And I'd like to invite you to come and see the exhibition at the Dan Orioni, and also to one day come and visit Antigua and Barbuda.
So we're going to talk very quickly now about the restoration of the Government House, and so it's my pleasure to introduce John Darlington, who's the Executive Director of the Britain for the World Monuments Fund.
Thank you very much, Barbara. As Barbara said, my name is John Darlington. I'm the Executive Director of World Monuments Fund Britain, and I'm part of a charity which actually is World Monuments Fund, which works out of New York. And as a charity, what we are responsible for is essentially championing and conserving extraordinary buildings and monuments across the entire globe. We have been involved in something like 800 different projects in 100 different countries in the 50 plus years that we've been in existence. And being in Venice today has a particular resonance because my charity actually started out in Venice as a response to the floods in the 1960s. So things come around in circles. One of the key things which World Monuments Fund does is every 2 years we have something called World Monuments Watch, where we select just 25 sites from across the globe which have a particular resonance, which need help. It needs a spotlight placing on those sites. These are the 25 for 2018, which is the current year. And we've grouped some of them, some according to the issues of the moment and the time. So, for example, some of our sites are grouped because they are places where conflict and heritage come together. So this is the great souk of Aleppo, which has been destroyed, so how do we help that? We have themes such as modernism. Modern buildings are often underappreciated, so how, again, do we raise the profile? The picture here is of the Sirius building in Sydney, which is under threat at the moment. Climate change, we've already picked up on this. Climate change has enormous resonance, of course, for the city of Venice, definitely for Antigua and Barbuda, as we've just heard about, and for other countries across the world. So climate change, and here is Blackpool, and it's one of its 3 piers, which is our climate change site. And sites of social conscience, another theme from the 2018 watch. These are the civil rights sites in Alabama in the United States. So amongst all of those 25 sites, we have also selected Government House in St John's in Antigua. And the reason we've selected Government House is because historically it's very important. Here you have probably the first planned grid town in the Americas, and in that town you have an early place where the British Crown was represented, and more importantly it's a place where Antigua and Barbuda's confident independence is expressed and is the office and part home of the man on my right. So it's important for lots of reasons historically. It's also important because it has need. This is a place, again, we've heard about this, where tropical weather, wind, rain, termites, this is not an easy place in which to build, and it's not an easy place in which to conserve buildings. So for reasons of historical importance and need, it's on the watch list. But, and this is the big but really, is important historical sites which need our help are across the whole world. The thing which really sets Government House apart is because of the way in which this project is being carried out. In some conservation projects, what happens is the conservators and architects arrive, the curtains effectively go up around the building, the work happens behind those curtains, and then with a great da-da, the curtains are opened and the building is restored and it's in its glory. That's not what is going to happen and is happening at Government House. Instead, Government House is being restored with the people of Antigua and Barbuda. It's being restored in a way which not only is important for heritage, but restored in ways which involve people who work, prisoners, and people who school children. It's involving a whole range of social issues through which heritage happens to be the medium of communication. So it's for that reason that actually Government House is on the World Monuments Watch list for 2018, and we're absolutely delighted to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate it. So Anne Jonas, who serves as the private secretary to the Governor General, will now be speaking a little bit about the specifics of the restoration and sustainability.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Barbara, thank you so much. And thank you, John, for that introduction to our project. And since John has done such a wonderful job, I will only share 4 pillars with you for our project. The Government House Restoration Initiative was modeled with 4 principles in mind. The principle of engagement. We sought to engage stakeholders from the local as well as regional and international arena. And as a result, with consultations with their excellencies, we were able to identify a number of individuals who had shared the same passion and interest in restoration, utilizing modern, or what shall we say, environmentally friendly mechanisms for restoring the structure, which was clearly in trouble, as well as including a component or the principle of transformational change. As was mentioned earlier, we spoke about the persons who are incarcerated, who are learning different trades so that when they leave prison, they will be able to function in society more smoothly than they did prior to entering. We have as well the therapeutic garden experiences, which we'll be creating so that those who are not well, particularly those who are struggling with the challenge of mental and emotional issues, there will be a therapeutic garden in Government House that will assist in bringing about change from a state of unwellness to a state of wellness. We've spoken earlier about the normal expectation coming out of a civil works project, which will be that we will have a building that's restored in its former glory. As one contributor to our catalogue for this year mentioned, her name is Lafleur Plastier, who is a media specialist from the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, that Government House is a place of tranquility and humanity, and it showcases His Excellency's authentic compassion for the incarcerated and differently abled. So being an agent of change is an important component or principle of this project. 2 additional areas would be the principle of creating a space of dialogue. We want to continue the dialogue between young and old, between the differently abled and the abled, between the technicians and the general member of the public, between the archaeologists and those who are not aware of the value of understanding our history. We want to continue the dialogue among people who want to use the space, who would never have been in the space, and who are just totally overwhelmed when they come to visit the office of the Governor General. And finally, the principle of sustainability. We are not only interested in sustaining the products or the outputs from this project, but also ensuring that our environment is sustained, not only in the Office of the Governor General in the Government House Restoration Initiative, in the Barbuda rebuilding, but also in the redevelopment of our Botanical Gardens. We are delighted that you are here to share with us in this initiative. We'd like you to share with others and to encourage everyone that you meet to support our initiative in Antigua. Thank you.
So I think Mom is going to speak. Yeah, okay. So I think that when we talk about environmental justice as a civil right and we look at these 3 properties, the real engine that's running this would be empowering the youth and making sure that we create environmental advocates And so it's my pleasure to present Molly Kraft Johnson of the Tishman Environment and Design Center at the New School, who worked with Cecilia Stefanlongo and Veronica Harkins at the Ca' Foscarini here in Venice through Jane Damasto of We Are Here Venice, and also Lady Williams of the Halo Foundation, who organized the students to have Zoom sessions where they discussed what it was like living on an island and the issues that they faced. So Molly, thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. So as we were preparing for the pavilion of Antigua and Barbuda, of course, and rightfully so, we were looking at 3 projects that showcase very local concerns of recovery and rebuilding and restoration. But what we realized is that the large and encompassing issue of climate change is not something that Antigua and Barbuda are alone in facing, and it's not something that they should be alone in facing. The large and encompassing issue of climate change is not something that Antigua and Barbuda are alone in facing, and it's not something that they should be alone in facing. Youth in Antigua and Barbuda, as well as in Venice and New York, to create the beginnings of a global network of young people living on islands impacted by climate change. So we organized online video chats connecting students from these 3 different countries with 3 different backgrounds to learn from each other and to talk about what they're experiencing now from climate change, what they anticipate experiencing, what they hope for their future, and what they think of the theme, environmental justice as a civil right, how they see it realized, how they see that we could improve on any of that. And we're very lucky today to be joined by some of the students who participated in our session, so I'll invite them all to come up on stage. So these are students from Ca' Foscarini who are going to share a little bit about the experience that they had meeting New Yorkers and Antiguans and Barbudans.
Salve. Che cosa significa per te giustizia ambientale? Questa era una delle domande che ci hanno posto durante le videoconferenze con Zoom. Nessuno di noi aveva una risposta pronta. A dirla tutta, non ci avevamo nemmeno mai pensato. Quando abbiamo cominciato il progetto non immaginavamo in cosa consistesse e cosa avremmo dovuto fare. Siamo entrati in aula informatica e abbiamo aspettato che si aprisse la sessione, un po' titubanti, forse anche un po' imbarazzati. Poi abbiamo cominciato a parlare, a confrontarci e a fare domande. E da semplici domande, giorno per giorno, sono nate conversazioni molto più intense ed estese. E il confronto con i ragazzi di New York e Antigua e Barbuda è stato decisivo a questa crescita di consapevolezza del nostro vivere e capire le nostre città e di coglierne le fragilità davanti al cambiamento climatico. Prima di questo progetto, e forse anche per quell'orgoglio veneziano che ci contraddistingue, nessuno di noi si sarebbe immaginato di poter paragonare Venezia a qualsiasi altro posto. Ma così è successo. Vivere su un'isola, che sia nel mezzo del mare, dell'oceano o della laguna, ci espone a dei rischi. I problemi che dovremmo affrontare nel futuro si assomigliano, nonostante le miglia di distanza.
Ognuno di noi vive la propria isola in maniera diversa, affronta i problemi in maniera diversa, pensa alla propria specificità e pensa in modo egoistico anche alla propria fragilità davanti ai cambiamenti. Ma la diversità non deve precludere la lotta comune per un diritto fondamentale e questo obiettivo ci ha spinto così, in queste settimane, a scoprire le affinità e soprattutto la necessità di unirci per costruire un orizzonte di sviluppo comune, di inseguire insieme una completa giustizia ambientale. I disastri naturali possono colpirci in modi diversi e con intensità diverse, ma a tutti, in modo analogo, a tutti devono essere garantiti piani di gestione e prevenzione. Purtroppo non sempre è così. Le isole di Antigua e Barbuda ne sono un esempio. Proprio per questo è importante, e in queste settimane ce lo siamo ripetuti spesso, portare al centro dell'attenzione i disastri che colpiscono i diversi paesi del mondo, cercando di comprenderne profondamente le cause e le conseguenze e fare pressione perché si agisca prima e non solo dopo la tragedia.
So we have many people to thank, but I think one of our first friends in Venice was Jane Damasto of We Are Here Venice. And I would be very grateful if she would speak a little bit about her work with We Are Here Venice, her environmental achievements, which are visionary. And then His Excellency will say a little bit on behalf of Lady Williams after that about Lady Williams' work with the Halo Foundation. So Jane DeMasto is the co-founder and president of We Are Here Venice. So thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Barbara. First of all, I want to say that it was impossible for everybody to understand what the students from the Liceo Foscarini just said, and I hope that they'll soon provide a full transcript of their really important words and their expression of willingness to join in their appeal for environmental justice. It was really magic listening to what they said, and congratulations and thank you very much. And I want to thank the Governor General, Sir Rodney Williams, Cultural Envoy Barbara Baker, and all the wonderful people on the team for inviting Venice to share this platform. We're honoured and very appreciative of the attention to the Venetian setting and the sensitivity demonstrated by the Antigua and Barbuda National Pavilion. Although on different sides of the world, there are so many parallels that can be drawn between Antigua and Barbuda and Venice, especially as small islands with inherent vulnerabilities already challenged by the effects of climate change. Aside from wishing to share knowledge and experiences as regards technological, engineering solutions, etc., we also completely share your belief in environmental justice as a civil right and your determination to specifically use this initiative today and over the coming months to create and empower environmental advocates. Venice is a paradoxical city built on water, right in the middle of a dynamic and unstable coastal lagoon system. This, together with its unique and marvelous civilization, illustrates the importance and enormous potential of negotiations between Mother Nature and human intervention. To save Venice, we have to protect the lagoon. They're inseparable elements of a single system. Human intervention created the city and the lagoon that we call Venice, building out over islands, reclaiming marshes, rerouting rivers, dredging canals, and directing the waterways. And throughout the city's history, the surrounding waters have been its wealth. But nowadays, the outlook is very, very different. The Venice Lagoon only has 1/3 of the area of salt marshes that it had a century ago. Shipping channels and intense port traffic are exacerbating sediment loss through erosion and dredging. Average water levels are creeping upwards and accelerating the degradation of the urban fabric, causing more frequent interruptions of routine activities like transport services and obstructing businesses, etc. Consequently, perceptions of water have soured. Given the specificity of Venetian architecture and building materials, craftsmen, carpenters, masons, metalworkers, and other professions need highly specialized local knowledge and an understanding of the unique traditions in order to properly look after Venice's buildings and monuments. Permanent occupants rather than holiday guests are essential to providing the city with the proper care and attention that it needs. This means that Venice's greatest threats today are less connected with the physical and environmental issues than the survival of a sufficiently consistent residential population and the associated features of a living city characterized by care for people's homes, urban maintenance, civic life, and technical and cultural knowledge. Venice in the form of an open-air museum or theme park with an intense flow of transient visitors would not be able to continue being Venice for very long. So just like Antigua and Barbuda feel the effects of climate change due to global trends, Venice is having the same global trends suffocated through unmanaged mass tourism. No amount of generous support from international charities to repair and protect the city's extraordinary artistic and architectural heritage can compare to the ongoing and constant attention and understanding forged over a millennium that a living population provides for civic life, the sense of place, and the development of this city. So Venice needs a strong population of Venetians to be able to save itself. Yet the number of Venetians is falling fast, and the city is losing its voice on political decisions that affect our daily life and future prospects. Almost 3/4 of the municipality's population now lives somewhere that's completely different on the mainland. How can we even expect the local politicians to be able to accommodate the needs of the small minority of local residents? A better system of governance is urgently required to bring the viewpoint of decision makers more in line with the populations that they govern. Venice and the lagoon on the one hand, mainland, Mestre and Marghera on the other. Our proposition is that Venice as a microcosm could become a laboratory to show how cities can shape better governance architecture and complement the current system that's centered on nation states. Through the Antigua and Barbuda initiative, we hope that empowerment of environmental justice advocates, like the students at the Liceo Foscarini, will spill over and strengthen Venice's voice and place ecological considerations back in the realm of everyday decisions, ensure that the lagoon is respected and not just exploited, and repair the broken connection between economic stakeholders and everyday life in Venice. The current situation, characterized by unmanaged grab-and-run tourism, is on course to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. We Are Here Venice's basic philosophy is summed up by the motto, Venice for the Venetians, Venice for the world. If we can save Venice, we'll know better how to change the world. Our raison d'etre, therefore, is to inform citizens, foster discussions, and encourage engagement to empower Venetians to take back control over the fate of the city, and we thank Antigua and Barbuda for helping us.
Thank you, Jane, very much. Just as you nurture Venice, Lady Williams and the Governor General are doing their best to take care of Antigua and the Antiguans and the Barbudans. The Governor General is a medical doctor, and he cares very much about his community, as well as being representative of Her Majesty the Queen. And his wife, Lady Williams, is a very wonderful woman who has created an organization called the Halo Foundation, where they're taking care of many, many needy people and an environment for the needy. So, with all due respect.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. First of all, I wanted to thank Jane for those very nice words, and to say that you are obviously keeping your eyes on the pulse of Venice here, and I hope that you'll be able to have some influence on the politicians as they make their decisions to ensure that you continue to maintain a good population of people who appreciate and understand where they ought to go in terms of maintaining the life of Venice and making it as attractive as it has always been. Just to say that when I became Governor General 4 years ago, I have several duties. One is constitutional, another is ceremonial, and another one is community outreach, and I would say promoting social cohesion. And we had about 16 organizations that we were patron of, and so my wife decided to take on that role of dealing with the organizations, and she set up an umbrella organization called the Halo, helping to help these organizations and also reaching out to persons who have a demonstrable need. And so she has gone about raising scholarships for young people. She has raised over $500,000 for Barbuda in terms of helping people now to restore their homes and giving them refrigerators, beds, and all those kinds of things. And they're doing it based on need. So that study is going on now, and people are beginning to get help in those directions. And so that's where we think we can help. And it has been a situation where many people, I think, have need, but sometimes, let's say the differently abled, for example, is another group of people who were not more in the forefront as they could have been. And now I think much more attention with the help of people like our High Commissioner to London, where we just had a conference, a Commonwealth conference in Antigua, that has made the whole idea of persons who are differently abled and their challenges come to the fore in terms of giving them opportunities for work, ensuring that the buildings are accessible by persons who are differently able and the like. And I think these are very good things. And that is why I think we do need to have organizations apart from government who are looking at the needs of the entire community and can help to highlight these things and bring them to the fore. And so I want to say that I think it's a very good thing that is being done, and I'm hoping that we can strengthen the relationship between Venice and Antigua in the various areas of human endeavor that we're pursuing. And I hope that your population won't get too small. I know the other day the president of China, he removed the one child per family plan which they had, and they want to increase so you can have more than one because there was a labor shortage. You spoke not so long ago, just recently here, about the decrease in the population of the Venetians. Maybe they're moving to other places or what have you. So if that is something that one needs to tackle. But however, let me say though, it's a great opportunity. We want to thank Barbara and all those of you who have come out this afternoon to listen to our little voice, and hope that it will enlighten and enliven you and help you to understand the type of challenges that we face, and hope that we can all put our minds and our hearts and our souls together and seek to meet these challenges for the good of all. Thank you very much.
Well, you can see that environmental justice as a civil right affects us on many levels, and that there's a great topic for future conversation. So again, we hope that you'll visit our National Pavilion, and that we hope you'll also visit Antigua and Barbuda. So thank you all for coming.